In the spirit of Halloween, paranormal or not, what is the scariest, creepiest or most unsettling experience of your life? I have a few. I live in a haunted house, so weird shit happens all the time. I was freaked out when I touched a Ouija board by myself and it started moving. For those of you that haven't tried it, you are always a little certain someone else is moving it and is in charge. The front and back doors have opened themselves a few times on Halloween night. I've had a ghost fling open my bedroom door and hit glass balls together that we're in my room. I've been in the shower and a bunch of stuff on dresser that's in there got knocked off. More recently I've only had something knock/slam on my bedroom door a few times. It's all fun and games, I hope. My favorite was when something was walking up and down the upstairs hallway whistling aimlessly. I'm the only person in the house that can whistle. I understand if you don't believe me, but it's true. So I went camping with some buddies a few years ago. We decided to go on our spring break in high school and take as few items as we possibly could because we are young and dumb. We went to one of my friend's dad's land and decided to hike the first day until we found a good spot. We found one probably about 3 hours in and set up shop. Now I don't recall what everyone else brought, but I know I brought a sleeping bag, a machete, hiking boots plus clothes. No one brought food because we wanted to hunt to eat like some real men to be young again. Everything went surprisingly well the first 2 nights. We managed to kill a few rabbits and a snake. We're all sitting around the campfire at night pretty drunk when we heard it. A loud long deep howl. We all stopped and looked at each other for a few moments and then a chorus of howls began. They were all around us and I asked my friend if he thought it was coyotes or wolves. He said that he has heard of them having coyotes out there before, which PFFT. Big deal if it's coyotes, but the howls were so deep. He had his cell phone, so he called his dad and his dad told us that there had been some sightings of wolves in the last few weeks. Now typically wolves will leave you alone, but we were all drunk, didn't have a tent and horrified we were going to be eaten by these wolves. We stayed up the whole night to keep an eye out and the closest we heard was rustling behind the bushes and the glow of eyes behind the tree line. So horrifying, honestly. Thankfully we all survived and hiked as fast as we could back to civilization. When I was around 14, my family went on a vacation to Connecticut. One night there wasn't much to do, so my dad decided to take us on a ghost tour. It was one of those large group night excursions. Anyway, nearing the end of the tour at a church, and my sister, who is a year older, starts freaking out, saying she sees a man in black with a cowboy hat and spurs and he is pacing up and down the upper balcony, and not one of us sees what the hell she's talking about. So she's panicking and crying and we take her out and that's the end of that. So I think. Few years later we're in Salem, we go on another ghost tour because ever since that one we did I got really into the paranormal and occult. Anyway, we are now at another church, mind you this is years later and in a different state. My sister looks up again, freaking out, man in black, cowboy hat, spurs. This time she sees he's sad and looks like he's playing out some loop of a funeral. My sister starts describing this event. When the tour guide cuts her off and says, "Oh, you're talking about so and so. He's mourning his wife and child who died en route to Connecticut." Seriously, my heart stopped and I froze solid. My sister never mentioned the time she saw him years earlier. She 100% can see dead people. You'll believe whatever she says. I came home from the grocery store on Friday having bought 5 wheels of soft cheese for the weekend. When I went to the fridge the next morning, only 1 wheel was left. My friends told me that I must have eaten the other 4 in my sleep. I am known for sleepwalking and eating, but I was really hungry the next morning. It didn't feel like I had 4 wheels of cheese in me. When I was 12 or 13, my best friend and I were riding our dirt bikes through the woods around his house. There were jumps and trails and shit, and the woods got pretty thick in places, so naturally there were all kinds of stories about creepy things happening there, but we never believed them. One of them was a rumor of these people in white that would surround you in the woods and laugh as they grew closer to you. I never knew anyone that saw them, but my dad said he had heard stories. We were at least a mile into the trees. Anyway, when we were out riding and my friend's bike, which was much older and less reliable than mine, seized up and we couldn't get it running. He tried kicking it on, then I did, no luck. That's when we noticed that we could hear engines in the distance. The more we kicked, the closer they seemed to get. Then I caught a glimpse of something white in the distance. Then another. I told my friend what I saw when I saw the third white shape in the distance and he pointed out the sound of the engines. Our minds immediately shot to the rumors of the people in white. So we started kicking harder, faster, more panicked. Every second that passed the sounds got louder, seemingly mocking us in our futile attempts to get his bike going. Then the laughing started and it was not subtle. It was loud and obnoxious. We started to panic, because when the laughing reached its fever pitch, we caught the first glimpse of a white figure in the distance on a four-wheeler, then another, and another. They'd surrounded us and were circling us like vultures, laughing hysterically the whole time. They were dressed in white but they didn't have a human shape, they had longer necks, tiny heads, and they were impossibly thin. Finally, his bike kicked on and we made the snap decision to pick a direction and haul ass out of there, risking running right into one of them as they circled us. Whichever way we went, we decided we'd find our way to his house after we were out of the woods. We weren't pursued and we got back to his house uninjured, staring out the windows of his house into the woods almost all night. When we woke up the next day there was a white robe in his driveway. Could have been some assholes playing a prank, but I'll never forget how non-human they were shaped. I was supposed to check the water level of our pool this fall by the request of my dad while he was on vacation, leaving me alone in the house. It was a moonless night so I couldn't see anything besides my decent flashlight let me illuminate. When I crouched down to check the water level I heard it. A sort of rustling scraping noise just beyond our sparse hedge, about 10 meters away. I became quite nervous and flashed my light in the direction of what was making the noise. Nothing there. After a good 30 seconds, which felt like 30 minutes, of trying to find the source, something came darting towards me from the darkness. Our cat. Sure that it was responsible for the sound, I gave it a pat and headed for the house. However, when I turned around the sound continued, albeit slightly changed. It sounded eerily similar to dragging feet on the dirt road. I pointed my light towards the sound but I couldn't see anything, just hear the gravel crunch as the sound moved along the road. At my college orientation we stayed for a night in a dorm on campus. My friend and I got a room together and it was connected by a bathroom to the room next to us. We didn't go to bed till about 1 AM and we checked the room next to us and no one had come in, so we figured no one was gonna stay there. I woke up later around 3 AM to someone tapping me on the chest. It was just a shadow and since I woke up from sleep I couldn't really make out a face but thought it was my friend. John? John? You okay? No answer. He kept tapping my chest. I thought it was John sleepwalking. John? Wake up. He started to walk away from me toward the bathroom. John? Where are you going? John? About that time, I heard a voice from the other bed in the room. What? I'm sleeping. It was John in the other bed. The shadow walked into the bathroom. I freaked out, got up and went to the bathroom and opened the door. The light was off and no one was in there. I opened the door to the other room and no one was in there either. John and I just sat in our beds for like an hour before we could fall asleep again. That dorm was knocked down less than a year later. Creepy way to start off my college career. Non-paranormal but still one of the most frightening experiences of my life. I had the pleasure of growing up in Lake Tahoe and spent my childhood running around forests, playing in rivers, and generally bouncing around one of the most beautiful places on the West Coast. Needless to say I don't remember many birthday parties as a child that were inside if the weather was good outside. I was around 11 and was at a close friend's birthday party on the lake. Parents were barbecuing and kids were running around being insane, you know, like 10 and 11-year-olds are wont to do. I was really close with the kid whose birthday it was and as such I got to sleep in this kid's massive tent. We're bunking down for the night and there are probably 7 or 8 kids in this family-sized tent camped on the beach among a sea of other tents. We're telling ghost stories and generally trying to freak each other out. I don't remember falling asleep, only waking up what was probably 2 or 3 in the morning. The moon was full and out in space. I wasn't quite sure what woke me up right away, but I quick learned. As I'm laying there staring up at the tent ceiling trying to fall back asleep, I hear it. A low sort of sniff grunt. This I see it. A shadow slowly starts creeping from one corner of the tent, a bit skewed at first but it takes shape fast. My 11-year-old insides turned to mush as the shadow took form of a bear's head and then body. His massive nose pushing on the tent, the grunt and huff as he investigated the tent. I didn't know what to do. I stopped breathing, pulled my sleeping bag slowly over my head and prayed to whatever god my little mind could comprehend. I've never been so afraid and it took every bit of my willpower to close my eyes and not scream. All I knew was that screaming and startling a massive bear in a camp full of little kids and parents was probably not the right move. I'm not quite sure what happened after that. I don't remember much until morning. I never told anyone that we were inches from becoming a bear meal. I still love camping. But anytime I'm sitting in my tent and the moon is lighting it up, that memory makes it way back and I can feel the slight pang of fear I felt that night. To this day, I don't think my sphincter has ever been tested as much as that night. When I was younger, me and my twin sister were playing in the basement of our house. We had gone to the main landing area and there was a tall man in dark clothing with a large dog by his side. We had asked him what he was doing and he said he was here to see our father. We both ran upstairs to tell my dad. When we went back downstairs, the man had already disappeared. There is no way out of the basement except on the staircase we had gone up. Me and my sister both remember this.